Dougherty Foundation, and it's my pleasure to share some information with you about applying for scholarships for college and just some of my hints and tricks to help get you through the process. So the most important thing to understand is when and where you should be applying. The advice I always give to new students and current students in college is understand what school you're most likely to attend. If you're a senior in high school right now and you might still be deciding, is it going to be a community college, the university, or you don't know which college, either here in Arizona or somewhere outside of Arizona, that's okay. The important part is that you start applying for scholarships in the earliest time of the year. So January and February is when scholarship season is in high activity. So if you know what school you're going to, start there. So if you know you're going to be attending Arizona State University, or if that's your first choice, pay a visit to their scholarship and financial aid website. You'll get a lot of information there. The colleges now all have matching software that they use to award scholarships across all their fields of study and all the students coming in. So they're going to have a process. It's very similar to the one that I'm going to talk about later for the Dougherty Foundation. That matches you to all the different awards across the university. So always start at the school that you think that you will be attending. If you have a couple of schools that are on your list, visit every website, start applying at all of them, even if you don't know if you're going to be going there yet, just so that you're aware of deadlines and any requirements to apply. You have those on your list. The next place you want to go to is the actual college within the college. So if you are going to say you want to be a teacher, you're going to be attending the College of Education at Arizona State University, you want to give a call or visit the website to the College of Education. A call is always really good because sometimes there are scholarship opportunities available at the college level, at the school level, that don't make it onto the websites or don't make it into the big matching software that maybe the dean's office might know about or the administration office might know about in the College of Education. So I was just giving them a call and saying, hey, I'm an incoming student. Are there any scholarship opportunities that you have available right now that might fit me? And you're also building a relationship and rapport with the college administration as you enter that school, and that's always a good thing. The next place, especially if you're an Arizona student, is the Arizona Community Foundation application. And this is a general application. You're going to go in, you're going to fill out all sorts of general questions about you, your name, where you went to school, where you want to go to school, and about 100 other questions that help us learn more about you. And every time you answer one of these questions, you might think it's something very small, like how you identify, male, female, non-binary, or your race, your age, all sorts of questions. All of these questions, they're going to take that information and match it up to all of the awards that they have in their system. And on the other side, after you hit submit and complete all of the information, the software program does all the work and tells you what awards you are eligible for. And for most of them, you've already been put in the pool of contention. And then there might be some others that you may need to submit a few other questions, another essay, sometimes a letter, or a proof of a certain identity, like a military ID, to complete that application. So these software programs are really helpful and beneficial because it takes some of the work out of filling out 50 different applications and puts it just into one. So the Arizona Community Foundation application is actually where the Dougherty Foundation application is. So we are one of over 100 different scholarships in that system. So when you complete the application, the link is here in the middle of the page, azfoundation.academicworks. When you complete that application, you're actually applying for the Dougherty Foundation scholarship. And since there's so many awards in this one particular system, they all have different deadlines throughout what we call the scholarship season, which is typically January through about June. Dougherty Foundation's scholarship criteria is very broad. We award for every field of study that you can imagine. We have a 3.0 minimum GPA, and you can either attend community college or a four-year university in Arizona. There are, with the different scholarships in this application, they all have a different criteria. But the Dougherty Foundation, we like to cover as many students as possible. The only other requirement is that you have some financial need, but I've yet to come across very many students that can't claim that they have some financial need. So as long as you can prove that you have unmet need, we are happy to consider you for our award. Our deadline is always the first Friday in June. That's one of the later deadlines in college processes. Typically, you're going to see other awards starting late January, February, March, and April, kind of throughout. So my best advice is apply as early as you can in January, in February, or whenever you discover the application. Apply as soon as you can and submit it. And you might be thinking, I don't know what college I'm going to. I haven't decided what my major is going to be. And we'll talk about some of those points later on in the discussion. But when you apply early, you are putting yourself in competition for the most scholarships available because they haven't started to close yet. If you wait until later in May or early June, you might only be applying for 1 or 2 scholarships at that point. So by applying in January, February, you're going to be applying for hundreds versus a couple at the later part of the season. Another place to look for great scholarship opportunities in our community are any other civic groups or organizations around town that you might know about, your church or other churches, civic groups like the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, companies offer a lot of scholarships now as well for their employees. So where do your parents work? Does your parents' employer offer a college scholarship program that would be applicable to you? If you're going to be an engineer, look at the companies that do engineering in Arizona, do a little Google work and see if they offer scholarships for the field of study that you're going into. So I know I don't teach any of you about how to Google anything. You probably know how to do it better than I do. But there's good and bad things about going out on the internet and searching for scholarships in your field of study. But it is a good exercise to do. Scholarships for whatever field you're going to be going into. So I have used teaching and engineering as examples. So if you Google those, you'll come up with a long list. Whatever major you are expecting to complete in college. Also for, other affiliations that you have as a human being. So if your race or ethnicity or other affiliations, your religion, places that you volunteered for, all of those things, people award scholarships based on so many different criteria. So out in the world, there are thousands, millions of different scholarships that you could apply for. My recommendation for students doing those bigger searches out in the world is really look at the eligibility criteria, and if you fit it, apply. Even if it's a big, huge scholarship, you think maybe I don't even have a chance. COLA scholarship, it's a full ride, it's a national competition. I'll never, be able to win that. Well, you don't know until you try. And if you fit the eligibility criteria, you might as well give it a shot. If you don't fit the criteria, though, if there is something that you are missing, it's probably not the best use of your time. But there's so many out there. One thing about Googling and finding college scholarship opportunities out in the big wide web, never pay for an opportunity. If they're asking for a fee or a membership or some kind of money up front, it's probably a scam. So you don't want to be putting any money up front for applying for a scholarship. Now that's different than application fees for your colleges. That's all above board. But when you're applying for scholarships, they shouldn't be asking any money from you. So some general application hints. They're always going to ask for an email address, and it's usually the login to their system. So use an email address that you will keep check frequently. I can't tell you how many times students use or they create a new email address just for their scholarship applications, which is fine. They don't check it very often, and I'm sending them notices and they're not responding, and they'll get back a couple of months and say, I didn't check that email address. So use an email address that you will check, because when scholarship providers come to you with money, you want to be able to respond to them pretty timely. And also use an appropriate email address. So don't use slang or derogatory terms, even if it might be a funny email address that you keep for personal use. This is a time where you probably want to use something that's more professional in nature. You never want to use a parent's email address or let your parents fill out the applications for you. Because trust me, I've been doing this a long time. We know when your parents have done it for you. So we really want you to do the work. It's really important and part of the integrity of this application system where we're asking you to do the work to receive this money. And if you use a parent's email address and we have to start communicating with your parents, it just kind of throws off that trust system that we have with you as a student. So try not to do that if at all possible. In general, you want to log in early for any scholarships that you know you're going to be applying for. So at your college and university and the Arizona Community Foundation application, log in even if you're not completely prepared to complete the application, just to see what is going to be required of you. Typical things. Transcripts are typically always requested. You might want to check and see if they're official requested or unofficial. Unofficial means that it's just something that you can print off on your own computer and copy and scan or upload to the document without it having official approval from your school. When you need official transcripts, that means you need to request them from your high school or any previous colleges, and they kind of have a stamp and they're sealed so that we know that they haven't been tampered with. So make sure you understand which kind of transcripts that you need to share with your college application, scholarship application. Letters of recommendation, although a lot of scholarship providers are moving away from requesting so many letters of recommendation, many still do. And the hardest part about this, of course, is asking your teachers and professors or coaches, mentors in the community, and then following up with those people to make sure that they submit them. Sometimes they need to be submitted in sealed envelopes. Sometimes they can share them with you in a PDF format and they can be uploaded to the online application. So make sure you understand the work and the time that it's going to take to get those completed and submitted on time. That's a really important thing. There are so many applications that go incomplete because of letters of recommendation. So you want to start on that very soon. And then if you need any proof of any special identity, as I mentioned before, like a military ID or proof of community service or volunteer status at a specific organization to apply, you want to make sure you get those things prepared as well. So if you log in early, you'll understand what all of the requirements are, and then you can go back and log in and complete the application when you have the things that are necessary. And then, of course, the most important thing, understand what the deadlines are and finish by the deadline so that you'll be considered and all of your hard work won't go for nothing. All right, a few more. Some of these are kind of silly, but we see them a lot, which is why we mention them. Capitalize your name. We're not texting here. This is a formal application. And since it's an input into basically a great big Excel sheet is what comes out on the other end. When we cut and paste those Excel cells into other things, your name isn't capitalized. Your name's not going to be capitalized when we send it to the school. And it's just, it gets to be just kind of a mess. So just capitalize your name for us so we don't have to fix it for you. Your essays, we're going to talk a lot more about the essays later, but write your essays or your personal statements required in a Word or a Pages application on your computer so that you can spell and grammar check them. And then you want to copy and paste that into the online applications. That way, and check for formatting once you paste it into the application. That way, you have a much better opportunity to edit and take your time crafting those statements in a Word document than you do in the online. Sometimes the online applications time out and you'll lose your work. So you don't want to risk any of that. It's much better. And that way you have them safe. Other applications you can just cut and paste as well. So definitely do that. This is another, we've had a lot of experience type of hints is be honest, kind and gracious to any staff that you can communicate with. We remember, we communicate with a lot of students, some who, are having challenges with the application or just have questions. And we always really remember the ones who are, like, if you honestly make a mistake, it's okay. We're all human. We do that. We miss a deadline. We forget this, that, or the other. And honestly, if you call me and say, I just forgot, I'm so sorry type of thing, more than often, they're going to make an exception for you. And, we also get calls of students who are angry or upset or because they didn't get selected or something happened and they kind of take it out on us as staff. And we also remember that, so that the next time that they apply, we might think, oh, that's that kid that called and yelled at me. And we're human too, and we're trying our best to help you receive funding. So just kind of keep that in mind. And even if you are angry, just take a moment, be kind with us and gracious with us, and that will be returned to you. If you do receive an interview for a scholarship or receive a scholarship, please send a thank you note. It doesn't have to be 8 pages long or on fancy stationery. It can be an email, it can be a written note. Those are always great. Or you can call and say thank you. Again, that sticks with us. We remember who those students are, and we really appreciate, and our donors really appreciate being thanked. And always, always, always apply again next year. If you receive a scholarship, if you don't receive a scholarship, keep applying. There's awards that you will be eligible for every year. New awards, the same awards. The Dougherty Foundation Scholarship is a renewable scholarship. So it's really great in that you can receive it year after year until you graduate with your bachelor's degree, but you do have to submit some renewal information. So we try and track everybody down, but it's great if you just come in and complete it and we don't have to chase you around. All right, so some tricks for the Arizona Community Foundation application, which is where the Dougherty Foundation application is. Like I mentioned earlier, every question on the match applications help you find more scholarship opportunities that you are eligible for. So you want to answer every question that you can as honestly as you can. So if you skip things that aren't required, that's fine. You can still submit the application, but you also might be skipping out on money and opportunities that you could be eligible for. So take the extra time and answer every question. Select everything that applies to you. So some people, and I am sensitive to it, if you don't want to share information that's very personal to you, or you feel just you don't want to share, that's absolutely your right. But every time you decline to submit information, you're choosing not to be eligible for those awards. So if you choose not to share what race or ethnicity you are, you could not be considered for awards that are specifically for your race and ethnicity. So those are things, we're asking the question, not because we are, I don't know, trying to find out the race and ethnicity of everyone necessarily, but because there are awards for African-American students, Native American students, everything that you can imagine. So answer everything that applies to you. If you are unsure about the college you are attending next year, pick the one that you think you will most likely attend. So if you're applying right now to 4 different schools, or you don't know which campus you're attending of a community college, and you won't know for a couple months, that's all right. Pick the one either you want to go to the most or that you think you will most likely end up at, and then update it if it changes. So we're asking you to apply early in January, February, which is maybe before you'll make that final decision. If you think you're going to ASU, pick ASU. If it changes and you're going to Paradise Valley Community College and you know that, come in and change it in the application. And you can do that at any point in the system, even if certain scholarship deadlines have passed, come in and update it. Why this is important. If you pick undecided, do not pick undecided. Because if you do, then again, you're counting yourself out for any opportunities that might be college specific. There's a whole group of scholarship awards that are based on what college that you're attending, based on the level of college that you're attending. There's awards that are just for community college or just for 4-year university. So if you pick undecided, you won't be considered for any of those because they don't know what kind of school you're going to. So if you pick ASU, and you end up going to U of A, you'll still be considered for awards that are for the 4-year university level, whereas previously you wouldn't have been considered for any of those. And then, like I said, update it if you make changes to where you're attending so that the scholarship reviewers know that they can make those changes on their side as well. So the same thing with your field of study. You're going to probably change your major maybe multiple times throughout your college career, and that's perfectly fine. But in the space of scholarships, we kind of want to know what your field of study is for the same reason. There are a lot of scholarships out there that are just for teachers, just for engineers, just for journalism. And if you don't share with us what that major is because you're kind of on the fence about it, you're not going to be considered for those awards. So pick something and go with it. And then, like I said, if it changes, you always can come back and change that in your application. The essay. I know it's probably the most dreaded part of your scholarship application because it takes time and it's like writing another paper, which nobody wants to do at this point in their senior year. I get it. But it is the most important piece of the application because we don't know you unless you tell us who you are. Yes, we can read your name and all of the questions that you've previously answered in this application, your demographics, where you went to high school, we can read your transcript. But the truth is that the essay is really the opportunity for us to get to know you as another human being. So your story is the most important part of this application. It's your chance to shine and to brag on yourself, which I know is not comfortable for everyone, but that's really what this opportunity is for. So essay, I always call essays the equalizer. You can tell me why your grades aren't the whole story, why you had a rough sophomore year, why you didn't join every club, you know, tell me how you're going to change the world. You can do all of those things in the space of a personal statement or an essay, whereas if I just look at your transcript and I see that you didn't do so great in a year, I don't know why, right? Your grades don't tell me the why, what happened in that time, what did you learn from that time? And that's really the most important thing that I'm trying to understand about you as a student. We all have rough times, right? This has been a crazy year for all of us and a really hard year for some of us. So tell us that story. When reviewers are reading your essays, you know, they are trying to put all the pieces into place about you as the whole picture. So the transcript and your grades are just one piece, and the essay really helps us connect all of those dots. And at the end of the day, everyone loves a good story. So think about like your favorite TV show to watch. Why is that show so compelling for you? And try to think about writing your essay in that same space. What makes, you know, what were the dramatic parts? What were the happy parts? Does it have a happy ending? What components of your whole life can you write into this essay that make it a compelling story for an application reviewer to read? And lastly, do not write just a few sentences and then hit submit. It's a complete waste of your time. All the other work that you have done to get all your transcripts, your letters, and complete this application, use an appropriate email, you've just wasted because you wrote in your essay, I have high financial need, my family doesn't make a lot of money, and I really want to go to college. That told me absolutely nothing about you. I don't know why for any of those statements. So you really want to take some time, write your story, or answer if it's a specific essay question, answer that question. Write your essay, go back to the question. Does my essay answer that question? It's really important. So if there's a word limit that they give you, try to approach that word limit. Don't go over, but get within 50 words or so. Because I'll tell you, there have been times when I'm reviewing thousands of applications and I will go through and use word count as a way to eliminate a whole pile of applications so I don't have to read them. Because if you only wrote 3 sentences, I know that I'm not going to consider your application because somebody else wrote 1,000 words about their life story and I want to read that one. So don't count yourself out by phoning in the essay. Do your best. So a few more pieces on the essay. Have at least one other person read it, ideally 2. One who knows you really well and can help you fill in any blanks. Like, why didn't you tell them about the time where you broke your leg or whatever it is? And another who doesn't know you as well and can share some feedback about, do they know more about you from the essay that you wrote? Ask them to give you feedback about your story and any spelling or grammar that they might notice. Share every reason in the world why you need financial aid. This is not the moment to be proud or shy or worried about it. Every reason is a good reason. The thing about application reviewers is we all have our own implicit bias. We all bring our own lived experiences to this table. And while providers are doing a really good job of bringing more diverse people to read applications, the truth is that we're all going to see different things in every application. So don't worry about that. Just put your story on the paper and we're reviewing you from the space of why do you need this scholarship money more than the next student out there. So you really have to make that case to us. So I've put down a list of things that you can consider, including, especially if the essay is, what is your financial need situation? These are all great reasons, healthcare costs, yours or your family's, job losses, yours or your family's, parents on disability, single parent families, you have a large family to support, other siblings are in college, your parents might be in college, your immigration status or your first generation status. Obviously, COVID circumstances for all of us. If you don't qualify for Pell Grants, if you're a DACA or undocumented student, you can certainly share that, and that justifies a lot of financial need. That one you do want to be a little bit careful about. If the scholarship requirement is U.S. citizenship status, you kind of know that that's not really the right place for you to be applying for. But in these general applications like ACF, there are some that's not a criteria and some that are. So just like I said, just tell your story, tell the truth about whatever of these bullet points fit for you. And basically any unusual reason that your FAFSA score doesn't align with your current reality. FAFSA scores are based on previous year parents' tax returns, and a lot, as we know, this year can change in a year. So, if parents lost jobs and no longer have the same income that they had when that IRS report was submitted, your FAFSA score is not going to represent what's reality. So you have to tell us that, because we don't know that by looking at those things. So it's all really important to put in there. All right, the do list. Do count yourself in. So if you see that you're eligible and you are interested in applying, do it. Don't worry about how many other people are applying or all those nonsense things. Just do it. Do be kind. Be gracious and grateful to the communications that you have with scholarship staff. Submit your applications on time. Follow up on your letters of recommendation and your transcripts. Check your email often, especially, I would say, in the next, between January and August is really important, but also in those first few weeks or months of the semester to make sure no extra funding has been awarded to you, because that can happen. And reapply next year, whether you receive a scholarship, whether you don't, you can always reapply next year for any of the scholarships that you try. So those are my tips and tricks for the online general applications that you will most likely be using through your college and the Arizona Community Foundation, and certainly for the Dougherty Foundation. Again, my name is Joyce, and you see my email there. You are welcome to email me if you have questions or concerns, and I am happy to help in any way that I can. And I wish you good luck in your scholarship applying. Can I answer any questions?
Okay, well, first, thank you, because this was such a brilliant presentation. I actually do have a couple questions that I thought about over the course of the presentation. And the first is kind of going back to the beginning, but it is tips for students trying to choose a college, and like what considerations should go into that decision.
Yeah, that's a good one. Times are changing. The advice that I give to students is pick the college that, so there's two things. Look at it from a financial perspective. Many students are highly qualified, eligible to attend a four-year university, but just frankly don't have the finances, even with scholarship and Pell Grant and loan assistance, to really make it there. And my advice to those students is it will be there when you get there. Go to a community college for 2 years, take the courses that are gen ed or apply to your major that are transferable, and you can do that with the advice of an advisor on the campus. Put in 2 years there, maybe it's only 1 year there, and then transfer to the four-year school. It will save you tens of thousands of dollars if you do it that way. Now, I understand that's not for everyone, and that's okay, but you have to look at what student debt looks like on the other side of a four-year college degree. And graduating close to debt-free is the best gift you can possibly give yourself as a young adult entering the world, because the choices you can make when you are less debt-ridden are different. You can take a job that you love and that fills your soul, instead of having to take a job that you have to take because you have student loan debt and you have to still eat and all of these things. So just think about that balance of what is it really going to cost me to start at ASU day one versus, my junior year or sophomore year. The second piece of that is, looking at a whole financial aid package that a school gives you. When you are accepted into a college, no matter what kind, they'll send you a bunch of financial aid paperwork. There's usually one sheet that gives a summary of all the financial aid the school is offering you, what Pell Grant you're eligible to receive, and any student loans that you or your parents are eligible to take out. And do some math. Ask for some help from advisors, either through JAG or others that might be able to help you discern, what these numbers mean, because it is not easy, even for those of us in the profession, to really understand all of those things sometimes. But if it's going to cost you $20,000 in loans to attend ASU every year for 4 years, that's $80,000. And trust me, it took me 5 years to get through my bachelor's degree. So that would have been, 5 years. It might not be the best choice. You can go to community college almost free. And if you get one scholarship, practically free. With a Pell Grant, you might be making money. And Pell Grants and scholarships, you don't have to pay back. And if you receive more than your cost of attendance, you can receive that money back as cash, and you can use that to put gas in your car and pay your rent. And doing it that way is no less respectable in this world. You're still getting a great education. You'll still get a bachelor's degree from one of the four-year universities eventually. So you got to think about those financial choices and what it means for you after you graduate, because it's really easy to sign on the dotted line, accept loans, go have a party and eat pizza every day, but you will have to pay that back. And trust me, it's much more expensive to pay it back on the back end than to work hard, earn some scholarships, go to a community college. So, but there are also really, great opportunities for students if you get really great scholarships from the university level and you're only paying maybe $5,000 a year out of pocket. Sure, you can probably work and balance all of that out. But every student and family has to kind of make those decisions on their own. Whether to live on campus at, that cost of it is like $15,000 or more now, or not. Like, those are choices that are tough, and you just kind of have to make a choice and decide what's best for you. But the great thing is that you can change that choice all along the way. You don't have to live on campus just because you did the first year. You don't have to go to ASU just because you did the first year. You can change your path, and that's okay. We're all here to support you in that journey. Our goal is just to get you across the finish line.
Thank you. Such an awesome response. I'm so excited to get this into our series. I have one more question, but David, I don't want to steal it. If you wanted to, I know you had said that you might have collected some.
My questions were mostly about essay writing, and you covered them yourself without me even having to ask them. Because I know that was the biggest hurdle for me applying for scholarships. I went to school in West Virginia, and we were lucky enough to have a really great state promise scholarship. Mm-hmm. But I was terrified of essay writing. I still am, and I majored in English. But you were really good, and you were really incredibly thorough. And I guess I just wanted to let kids know that, yeah, JAG's here if you ever need help with an essay. But yeah.
And I guess the only last question I have is other tips for students for asking for letters of recommendation, about what professors they should ask, and maybe what resources would be helpful to give to those teachers or mentors to kind of give them some context. I know for me, like, hearing from actually an academic and scholarship advisor in college telling me how mentors and teachers, especially if you have a strong relationship with them, like with JAG coordinators, they do enjoy the letter writing process. And I know that can be kind of a bit of terror for students asking because they think it's a burden. One thing I know about is also giving essay drafts and resumes to them to help as context, but I wonder if you have any other tips for choosing people to write them, and then what other things to give them.
Yes. So for letters of recommendation, you are asking another person to spend some time to serve, your application, and they're very used to it, especially teachers in the academic side. Athletic coaches a little less so, just because it's something a little bit out of their space. But some of them are still really great at writing letters. My tips in this space are ask early and often, because it's really your responsibility as the applicant to follow up and remind them kindly that you have a deadline to submit. Ask for more than you need. So if you know that you need 2 letters of recommendation, ask for at least 3 and maybe 4, because again, somebody might forget or have life happen and just not be able to complete that for you. So ask for more than you need. Another way, the research on letters of recommendation is that if you get a bad letter of recommendation, most application reviewers kind of hold it neutral. Like they don't hold it against the student because they recognize not every person is the greatest letter writer, right? So it might be the person writing the letter and not the student. So they kind of hold the student harmless, but that great letters of application really do boost the roundness, the overall eligibility for the student. So if your teacher, professor, coach, mentor is willing, you can ask for, if it's like a sealed letter in person, or if it's an online submission that they do, you can ask for your own copy of that letter so that you can read it. Most of them are pretty okay with you reading what all the good stuff they wrote about you, and you can sort of see what they're writing about you and keep a copy for future applications if you have your own digital copy of it. So if you think it's a really great letter, you can use that one in the future without having to ask them yet again for another letter for you. And if that letter happens to be kind of not so good or so, you can know that and not use that person as a reference again. But generally, you want to ask people that know you the best, either had you in their class and you had a good relationship with. Hopefully, coaches are good in the sense they really get to know you as a person outside of the classroom. And then, any volunteer opportunities that you did, someone at your church, or that you had a mentorship relationship within the community. Don't ask your mom. I've seen it. Don't do it. Typically, you don't ask family members to write letters of recommendation for you, because of course they're going to love you, right? So it's not really going to help you in your application.
Okay, such an awesome response. I can see already how much of a help you must be to so many students, because these are they're thorough responses and they cover all the bases, and I just wish that I could have seen this when I was in high school.
Well, thanks. I've been doing this a long time.
Have you? How long have you been doing it?
Oh, I started an actual scholarship, so probably at least 10 years in scholarships now. So I was, previous to this job, I was working at the Arizona Community Foundation, and I started as a grant officer, but their scholarship program was run by a different person, and he retired, and they asked me to take it over. And that's when all of the applications were on paper. So there were probably about 60 or 70 of them on different paper applications. And I was the person who moved them into online, because I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So the application that the Arizona Community Foundation uses now is the one that I created 10 years ago now. Seems like ancient history. And now everybody uses it. So
that's so cool that you were a part of that transition.
Yeah, it was a ton of work, but it was fun work, right? Like, you knew you were making a real change in students' lives, because you could just see how many more applications there were for every award, and getting different students in there that were never seen before. So
and I also I do, well, I guess honestly I don't know, because I've never applied to an application or a scholarship on paper, but you'd have to write out the essays on paper, which that's a huge amount of more work, already coming up with the ideas, but then also having to write it all down.
I mean, we still had word processing, so you usually typed them out, but
Oh.
still, like, you would have to fill out, because it wasn't like fillable PDFs. It was literally, you would print it, write your name, answer all the questions, and then you'd be so tired after just doing one. You're like, and I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, it does make it easier to apply to so many more. Oh,
Yeah.
I wonder, I think you included this, but I'm not sure. But I guess just going back into the essay writing process, when you had talked about working in scholarships for 10 years, I thought about, there was this one advisor that I worked with in college who like really pushed me into applying for the UDAL scholarship and for like a couple other major ones. And she really like walked me through that with writing these essays, like often, you know, some students can do it in like a brainstorming session and kind of write it in one go. But I know for me, coming to recognize that like my writing process usually involved like 10 different versions of the same essay was like a really big reckoning. And then also realizing that I could copy and paste kind of the main ideas into different essays.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to speak any more to that. That might be awesome, because I know like so many students struggle with the writing process and like, how do you pick,
Sure.
do you show, don't tell? How do you pick memories to include?
Yeah, the essay is a big obstacle for most of us. So you're not alone in that in any way. I mean, very few of us, those of us who go into journalism and you know, being an author or something, maybe not, but the rest of us hate writing about ourselves, especially. I mean, there's cultural barriers in there of, you know, in my culture, it's not okay to brag or to talk about my accomplishments, no less the dirty laundry of why I have financial needs. So it can be challenging. And if you feel like you're not a strong writer, that's, again, like most of us too. So don't worry about that so much. The important part is to just get it on the page, tell us the story, the important parts about what makes you you. Why do you want to go to college? Why is that an important goal for you? What do you want to do on the other side of college? You telling me that story is way more important than the structure of your sentence. The little grammar mistakes I'm gonna overlook, to be honest with you. You should try and not have them in there, but you know, really just getting you on the page is important. And the prompts for essays that different applications are going to give you are going to be different from application to application. They might change from year to year, but the essence is, you know, who are you? What do you want to be when you grow up, right? People have been asking you that since the beginning of your K-12 education. And for us just to get to see a different side of you than the data shows. And that's the important part. So nobody likes doing this work, but you know, what I tell students is really important is if you go to work at any fast food restaurant down the street, you're going to make what, $10 an hour? I don't know what the going rate is these days. When I was in college, I made $2.13 an hour because we would get tips on top of that. So if you're making $10 an hour at Wendy's and you spend 1 hour applying for scholarships and you receive, the Dougherty Scholarship is $2,000 a year, and that application takes you an hour, you've made $8,000 in an hour. How many hours at Wendy's do you have to work to make $8,000 after taxes, after all the stuff comes out, right? If you spend a good 2 hours getting essays, getting transcripts, writing, rewriting, think about it as an investment in this scholarship application. And how much per hour are you making? $1,000 an hour, maybe, right? So think of it from that perspective, and it makes the work a little bit lighter, right? Or you can go to Wendy's and work forever for $8,000, which you're probably also doing too, because that's just real life. We all do that. So
Awesome. Thank you so much.
yeah.
Is there anything else that you think would be important to include at the end here? Because I feel like we have covered all of our bases and this has been really awesome. But if there are any other like additions or related stuff, it'd be awesome.
At the end of the day, I think the most important thing, especially at the end of the year 2020, is that, man, we all had rough times. We've all had ups and downs, and there's so much to be grateful for, and there's so much work to do. So don't let financial aid be the thing that keeps you from going to college, and don't let financial aid be the thing that keeps you that makes you drop out of college, right? We want to see you continue. We want to see you receive a college degree. I know at the Dougherty Foundation, if a student has extra financial need and you let us know that, we're going to help you any way that we can. And there's a lot of people out there that want to help you in that way. For us, it's just money. For you, it's your future. And we want to make sure that you keep on that path. So don't let money be the reason that you don't go to college, and don't let money be the reason that you drop out of college. Keep it up. Let us know how we can help you.